Hello everybody, how's it going? So welcome to my review of One Piece chapter 1085. And indeed, this is the end for Nefertari, Cobra, King Cobra. We knew he was going to get killed. We had to know deep down it was going to be the Gurusei responsible. However, what was kind of a neat twist is how everything went down and how Sabo got involved into this situation. So that was kind of a neat little twist. Let's start off with a cover page with Frankie, a part of a cover request with a sign holding departure, guiding some turtles off the island. It looks like he's sitting on a crab as well. I don't know if the sign he's holding means anything about this chapter or not, or I guess technically speaking, departure could be meant for Cobra. This is actually a monumental chapter in scale of One Piece. It involves the Gurusei. Now, what's interesting about this is we're not that far away from getting the episode involving Luffy going into Gear 5 for the first time, so that's going to be a monumental episode. You know, the Gurusei is going to be heavily featured in that. The Drums of Joy Boy are going to be in soon enough because of the awesome episodes that we've been getting. I mean, this has been nothing new when it comes to that. Ever since we landed the Enter of Wano, it seems like totally it's been on another level. So this is nothing new, but the recent episodes, especially the ending to the Sanji and Queen fight, and my god, the ending to Zoro versus King, where, in my opinion, that in the manga it was kind of meh. They made it a lot better than it actually was. So that was amazing to see. That's an experience you're only going to get once. So if you haven't watched it, go watch it. We're getting Gear 5 pretty soon. So it's going to be interesting to see how they handle that. Because there's no way they could wrap up that fight unless they do a 2-part special, which I wouldn't be against. It's a big moment in the series, so I would not be shocked if they do announce it's going to be a 2-part episode. They've done it before with Sanji versus Luffy. They could do it here. It's going to be interesting. I personally feel like the way they've been going recently, Gear 5th, they're going to look to break records, and they probably could break the internet with the fandom once we get the episode with Gear 5th, Luffy for the first time. Speaking of Wano and the anime, we got an announcement considering the dub is going to be premiering on July 2nd at Anime Expose. They're going to be premiering episode 1000. Regardless of what your opinion is of the dub, I don't mind it. I think it's cool. Sub and dubbed, and it's a monumental episode for sure, episode 1000. I can't wait to see what it sounds like. I can't wait to see how the dub handles episode 1015, because that's arguably one of the best episodes in One Piece. So let's dive right into this chapter. And like I said, the Gurusei are going to be heavily featured in the anime when it comes to Gear 5th. They were heavily featured in this chapter, and it starts off with Imu sitting on the throne, and Cobra's like dumbfounded by this. Now, for the most part, it looks like Imu-sama is not Lily. They're not one and the same, which is good because Queen Lily was literally introduced in the previous chapter. So I don't know how well that would go with the fandom if that would be the case. So like I said, this is a monumental chapter because we're getting Imu with dialogue. For like last chapter, Imu mentioned Queen Lily's name. The vocabulary that's coming from Imu, you can tell Imu's on a higher level when it comes to like the world, how Imu views the world, and everybody else being beneath Imu. So Imu addresses King Cobra and pretty much speaks, "Thou must answer a single question in return, Cobra." So Cobra asked a question about what happened to Lily, so now it's his turn to answer. Cobra responds like, "I've heard the name Imu before." Again, all signs pointing we're going to get some information going back to Alabasta, because it was foreshadowed in this chapter. So there's a lot of mystery when it comes to that and the connection. And like I said, it's obvious there's a connection between Queen Lily and Imu and the interaction they had during the Void Century. One of the first 20 kings was also called that. So is Imu, this version of Imu, just that is descendant from Imu that we see today, or is Imu the one and only ruler that existed during the Void Century? So that has to be clarified, because there's a lot of question marks about this after this chapter. About, it's obvious Emu's a devil fruit user, but to what extent? But Imu responds, "Such curiosity will not be dignified with an answer." So this is what I'm talking about when it comes to the vocabulary. However, and this is pretty much what sealed his fate in the last chapter, by asking him out the will of D about the name of D. So Imu responds, However, those initial queries shall be addressed. D is the moniker of our ancient enemy. So we know that, but the thing is, the fact that Cobra brought it up, that's pretty much what sealed his fate, because that's a big no-no. It triggered Emu not once but twice. So in recent times it cropped up more frequently, but it's nothing but an echo, even though we have characters that have D in its name. So this is kind of big because a lot of people want to assimilate Emu as being connected to Dragon and Monkey D. Luffy. So I wonder what this means. Is there a connection or not? And there has to be a reason why Dragon despises the world government. So we need to know what that connection is, if there is a connection at all. So those who carry the name do not even know of its true meaning now. So that goes back to what I said in the last review. We're not going to get the meaning of the Will of D because, like I said, some characters need to be present. Obviously, those three people involved, Nico Robin, Law, and obviously Luffy. They need to be present. Obviously, those other characters, especially after this chapter. So this oration only endures to Queen Lily's grave blunder 800 years ago. Blunder, so it's obviously whatever Queen Lily did struck a nerve with Emu, and they erased Emu. Or did something to Lily. But they obviously did something messed up 800 years ago. So that connects everything right now. Emu brings up the same thing about the scholars. Obviously of O'Hara. I'm investigating the so-called Void Century. Well, it's not so-called because we know something happened. What is interesting is like the fact without that blunder, there would be no pirates chasing the poneglyphs in pursuit of treasure either. If it were not for Lily's complete incompetence, those vexing relics would never have been scattered all over the world. So the message is that, whatever Queen Lily found out, passed that knowledge on and carved that into what would become known as the poneglyphs, which we know were constructed by stonemasons from Wano 800 years ago. So that's the connection. So I'm going to get back into that in a minute. So King Cobra's like, what the hell? It's like he doesn't have a response for this. So Emu-sama continues, the release of the poneglyphs was the worst possible outcome for us. So one must wonder whether it was truly a mistake or actually part of some larger plan. And then you see the Gorosei like getting ready to like pull out the weapons, especially the elder with the sword. So yeah, this is curtains for Cobra. So this is where Emu's like, the truth undoubtedly lies in the letter that Lily left. So pray tell, was it a deliberate choice to only refer to her as Queen Lily of House of Nefertari? Go ahead, divulge the full name on her letter as written. This is where King Cobra realizes, yep, they got me. Because it's exactly what I thought, and a lot of people could have predicted coming from the last chapter. King Cobra knows he's done. He's done, so he's like, anything I tell you could satisfy you enough to let me go. And the girl says like, no, like you sealed your fate the moment you saw the great Emu, but that's bullshit because the moment King Cobra asked about the Will of D, and especially asked about Queen Lily, they were never going to let King Cobra go anyhow. So while this is going on, we have Sabo eavesdropping, listening to all this, and he's getting all this information as well. So as the dialogue between King Cobra and Emu exchanges going on, the truth is the letter Alabaster's ruler 8 centuries ago was signed by Queen Nefertari D. Lily. So that's the revelation, Nefertari D. Lily, which leads to another revelation. So the moment he said D, boom, that was it. Emu-sama strikes. Now, I don't know what technique that is, what different that is, but you see an arrow just pierce King Cobra, and as the Gorosei about to like finish the job, in comes Sabo with Fire Fist to he does nail the Gorosei, but obviously it obscures Emu's vision. Now this is where things get kind of like, okay, what the hell? So Queen Lily didn't sense Sabo coming. Emu's like, where did this one come from? Like, you couldn't tell Sabo was there, so that implies to me that Emu doesn't have observation hockey. If that's the case, then how's Emu going to be able to go up against Luffy, or is Emu even going to go up against Luffy at this point? So there has to be another reason why there's going to be a threat to Luffy, and obviously other characters that have D in their name. So Sabo thinks he's got the job done, but obviously the Gorosei revealed mythical zone devil fruit users, but they're in silhouette, so one of them resembles a bird or a crane in this instance. It's hard to tell which silhouette belongs to which Gorosei, but if I had to guess, like the one in the background holding the sword must be the elder with the sword. I'm assuming Sabo actually gets King Cobra to safety, even though he's been pierced by it. Now, I don't know what that arrow is. It's part of a devil fruit. If he can control something in the shadows, I don't know what that is. That's my guess, but we'll have to wait and see. So Sabo tries to run it. Obviously knows that the Gorosei haven't been done in, so that we get the reveal of the Zone type devil fruit, mythical Zone devil fruit users. So that's not a shock. Then we see a picture transponder snail take a snapshot of Sabo right beside King Cobra. So that's where the clickbait reports come from. So Sabo assassinated King Cobra. That's how he was framed. Cobra addresses Sabo as like, you're Luffy Kun's brother, aren't you? So, and leave me because I'm dead weight. You have a better chance of escaping on your own. And obviously realizing King Cobra has a lot of influence and a lot of information that could trump pretty much Emu and the world government at this point. So I was like, no, we're not going to let you die. If you were to die here, we'll be in trouble because I need you to deliver a message to Luffy Kun and Vivi. This is important here. So not just Luffy, but Vivi as well. And you want me to tell them something, says Sabo. And then Cobra says, tell them we share the moniker of D. So that's the other revelation. So it's not just Queen Lily. Like I said, you could have kind of like predicted that Queen Lily was in the clan of D, but now it's obviously been passed down to Vivi and King Cobra. So now Vivi and Luffy share another thing in common. So that's kind of interesting, and the fact that Sabo was told to go spread this to Luffy, I'm going to get back into that because it could play to what's going on in the present times. And he also mentions, finally, I know the path Alabasta must follow. This triggers a flashback to when Luffy, Sabo, and Ace were kids, and obviously he realizes Luffy and Ace both have the name of D. Obviously, neither of them care. So this is it's hilarious. So you can be like Sad Bo, but it'd be Sa D Bo if that were the case. But we don't have Sabo's full name, so I don't know how that would work. Unlike Pot Gus D Ace or Monkey D Luffy. But then you see an arrow pierce not only Cobra, Emu was still able to pierce them both. So they both get pierced. He's addressing like Sabo while he knows he's been attacked. He's like, go, you need to spread this message. He stands his ground, so that's kind of cool on King Cobra. He went out like a boss. So it's like the poneglyphs must be protected by the flag that heralds the world's eventual dawn. Nefertari D. Lily. I'm counting on you, Sabo-kun. Then this is where it cuts. Obviously, you must live on. It cuts away, and Wapol is peeking in through a hole, seeing this. So he obviously knows the Gorosei are the ones responsible for killing King Cobra. He backs up. Now, I don't know if they have observation hockey or they just literally spotted something shady. At least to the ending of this chapter, so that was kind of interesting. Wapple's like crying because he realizes he's got to be killed because he just stumbled upon the biggest secret the world government's ever kept. So Sabo managed to get away. We know he does. We also know Vivi gets away, but they play off the tension here because the reverie's still going on and they realize that King Cobra hasn't arrived. Obviously, he's dead, so he's not going to arrive. Shirahoshi is on the cusp of leaving. We know she gets escorted by Garp. Again, no mention of the Celestial Dragon Charlotte is dead or alive. Doesn't really matter. Like I said, he's worthless. But it kept kind of nice for some clarification because it was attempted murder. This goes back to the initial tease of what Oda was saying a couple of years ago back at Jump Festa, where he mentioned that something bad may happen to Sabo, Vivi, and Boa Hancock. If you look at it from a visual standpoint, at first glance, all all three of them were in trouble until they were bailed out. Vivi gets bailed out by Wapol in this chapter. Boa Hancock would have been in trouble if not for Rayleigh showing up to like help her out against Blackbeard, and obviously Sabo almost got annihilated. So that's the connection of the trio, and obviously Vivi got captured by the other members of CP0 and it's confirmed. And I was wondering about this a couple of chapters ago. I was wondering about this in the last chapter where we got the Admirals versus the Revolutionary Army Commanders. We saw former members of CP9 watching in, and I was wondering where they ranked, what their status was. But apparently all former members of CP9 end up becoming members of CP0. So we see Khalifa and Jabra and Blueno in the background. So I like how Vivi is being like retained. Is Shirahoshi alright? So that's cool on Vivi's behalf. So Jabra ends up pointing out the punks who ended up assaulting the Celestial Dragons was trying to kidnap the members of the Straw fleet. So this also goes back to what I said in the last review. So the fact that Leo and Sai, we know members of the Grand Fleet, and they pretty much blurted that out to everybody on Mera Jose, so they know they're affiliated with the Straw Hat Grand Fleet. I also said this took place a month ago, and now Luffy's a Yonko, so you'd think like Luffy would be number one, considering members of the Grand Fleet connected to the Straw Hats were responsible for attacking a Celestial Dragon. Now, notice how they're saying assaulted and not killed. Sai and Leo did not use Rio, because that would be a joke if they use Rio and somehow Shalos ended up surviving. We know that a member of the Gorosei is approaching an island, so I don't think this is the reason for that. They made it very clear there's a connection with Vegapunk, and they still made Luffy an emperor despite this attack. So what was kind of the twist of the chapter though is that meanwhile Fujitora helped the Revolutionary Army free the slaves that the Revolutionary Army like ended up freeing. That pissed off Rigaku, because obviously he has the same ideology as Akainu, and Akainu would not have done that. So this led to a fight with Fujitora and Green Ball on Mera Jose. So that may explain the bandages we saw with Fujitora if two admirals went against one another. It kind of reminds me of Aokiji and Akainu, we know clashed, but this, so obviously similar to that, we've got Fujitora and Green Ball going on it. So, and Vivi's thinking about escaping, but then out of nowhere in comes Wapol, grabs Vivi, and just get the hell out of there. And then, again, blunders on CP9, because they didn't even go after Wapol. It's like, Wapol and Vivi come chasing through the wall. Wapol's still panicking, because he thinks he's going to be killed. Vivi's like, how far are you actually going to go here? As far as it takes, I'll run to the ends of the world if I have to. Sounds good to me. So that's how the chapter ends. We know Wapol and Vivi end up on Big Morgan's News blimp with Morgan's News. They're chilling out with him right now. So this actually makes a lot more sense. We saw Morgan's News get an incoming call from Wapol. What's the tragedy about this though is Vivi doesn't even realise what's happened to her father. That's the tragedy. And we know she's obviously going to find that out because of the newspapers. But here's the thing. Wapol is going to tell Vivi what happened. So this kind of like goes back to why we saw Vivi now and not later on, where she could have told us what happened with her father. She wasn't aware. She was restrained by members of CP0. And after this chapter, it's pretty clear we're heading back into present time. So I don't know. When we saw CP0 approach Egghead Island, Rob Lucci clearly said, like, Barney is on this island. She won't escape me again. Like, and be the implication like they've had an encounter before. So what happened? Was the reverie where they had the encounter? I don't know. So that could be explained, but it's obviously like Barney's already left because of what happened in the previous chapter with her interaction with Sabo. We know Sabo gets away, we know Shirahoshi gets away, we know Vivi gets away. King Cobra unfortunately makes his end. Like I said, he went out like a boss. But the thing to me here, and this is something that I mentioned at the beginning of the last review, where I said that Vivi is going to play a key role into the finale in the final arc. Not only revealing that Vivi is Nefertari D. Vivi, but also the fact that Saba has laid that information onto not only Vivi but also Luffy as well. So that's the bombshell. So obviously we thought the Gorosei were responsible for killing King Cobra, but not in the way that I initially thought. Like, finally the Gorosei revealed to be devil fruit users. That's not a shock. They had to have something. This explains quite a bit. I said I was going to go back to this, but according to Emu, the poneglyphs being spread across the world with information returning to the world government and what happened 800 years ago was a plot, and the information was left behind by Nefertari D. Lily to relay that message onto the rest of the world, so they would know. This kind of explains what a poneglyph in Alabasta, retaining to the information about the ancient weapon Bluton, which we know is located in Wano. This explains why that poneglyph was in Alabasta and how that information got there. So I'm guessing she passed that on to, maybe she met somebody from Wano. Is Toki the one she met 800 years ago? This explains why she never returned, because obviously Emu did something. And the fact she has a D in its name, like I said, that's not the shock. We kind of thought this could have gone in that direction, given the last chapter, because why would King Cobra ask that if Queen Lily wasn't a D herself and relayed that information? The fact that King Cobra's like, no, there's a role that Alabasta has to play. I don't know. Vivi go back to Alabasta and find out the truth? Did Wapol overhear this information? Or is Sabo going to bump into Vivi and tell her the truth? And Cobra was the one that said to Sabo, you need to escape and give this information onto Luffy and Vivi. The letters that are left behind, that's going to be Vivi's job to track them down and find out the truth. Is Sabo good to reunite with Luffy? And if he does, is Dragon going to be there with him? That's the question I have. Otis revealed the Gorosei to be mythological Zoan type devil fruit. Reveal that because a member of the Gorosei is, like I said, currently on his way, or at least at Egghead Island, to confront Luffy and Vegapunk. We're going to get that revealed anyhow. For all intents and purposes, it looks like we could go back into present time after this chapter. I think we should, because there's nothing really to... All the information from the reverie we're wondering about, we kind of got, so there's nothing really to drag out. Like I said, the only thing that could potentially be related to the reverie is the confrontation between Bonnie and Lucci, and even that can be told in present time. Like I said, it's kind of heartbreaking that Vivi doesn't know what happened about her father, but Wapol carried her to safety, which is good. And this also goes back to what Zoro said before we entered Egghead Island. Zoro says, hey, don't underestimate Vivi. If the time will come when we meet her again, but until then, have faith, she'll be alright. Zoro was foreshadowing a potential reunion with Vivi. There's obviously a reason why Vivi has to reunite with Luffy at this point. So that's confirmed. So Vivi has a role to play, much like Boa Hancock has a role to play. That's why Boa Hancock survived. Sabo survived because obviously he has that information to pass on to Vivi and Luffy. So that's the reason why he didn't die. Very good chapter, very good information that we got. Obviously, we could have predicted Queen Lily was a D. Now Vivi inherits the initial D. What does that mean for going forward? And we obviously have to be introduced to the Royal Knights pretty soon, considering Dragon just hyped them up and they didn't appear in this flashback. So the Gorosei revealed to be devil fruit users. Not a shock. There had to be something, and obviously we're going to find out what Saturn looks like pretty soon. So that's going to do it for you guys. Thanks so much for watching. Like the review if you did it, thumbs up. I appreciate that. Subscribe to channel for more One Piece. Catch you guys later. Thanks guys. Bye.